What's up guys, Rogue9 here, and today I will be talking about the 2 and 3 round burst modes in Rainbow Six Siege. Where did the idea for a burst mode originate, and how is it realized in the game? Are there any hidden advantages to using burst fire mode as opposed to firing controlled bursts in full auto? All very valid questions I think, and many thanks to Discord user Snakes for suggesting the topic over on Prodigio Pete's server. And with that, let's get to it. As always, the video is divided into several chapters and you can find the relevant timestamps in the comment section below. Up first, it's time for a brief history lesson. The 3-round burst fire mode was initially created for the M16A2, which was originally requested and then first adopted by the US Marine Corps in the early 1980s. This development was in response to the experiences of the Marine Corps in the jungle warfare of Vietnam, where a frequently cited statistic claims that US troops fired around 50,000 rounds of 223 ammunition for each confirmed enemy killed. Some sources will even claim that up to 200,000 bullets were expended per kill. Unsurprisingly, this was seen as rather inefficient. Of course, a problem like this could have been solved by providing troops with more training and guidance to ensure greater discipline when engaging or suppressing targets. Rather than spend the additional time, effort and money on preparing troops for combat under stressful conditions though, it was deemed easier and cheaper to simply remove the fully automatic fire mode from the infantryman's rifles and replace it with a 3-round burst instead. So the philosophy was to simply take the spray out of spray and pray. Many modern firearms nowadays are fitted with a 4-position fire selector switch that will include safe, single fire, burst fire and full auto, thereby providing the user with the choice of switching to full auto when deemed necessary, and these are the types of weapons that we see in Rainbow Six Siege. In total, there are 11 weapons in the game as of Operation Health that have a discrete burst fire setting, 6 assault rifles and 5 submachine guns. All of the weapons represented in the game that feature a burst mode will always also have a full auto mode, so why would anyone limit themselves to 2 or 3 shots per trigger pull when you can just as easily use the full auto mode instead? It looks like we might need to conduct some experiments. But before we get into the tests, I want to take a quick moment to thank Swagbucks for sponsoring this video. Swagbucks is a website that allows you to earn reward points through actions such as taking surveys, watching videos, playing games, searching the web, or my personal favorite, shopping online. You can then convert these reward points into cash or gift cards from shops such as Amazon and Steam, and what better way to get hold of some free Rainbow Six credits or DLC packs? So go ahead and check them out by clicking the link in the description below and start earning your first reward points simply for creating an account. And with that, on to the experiments. The first thing that comes to mind in terms of in-game balancing is that maybe choosing the burst mode will offer improved recoil stats compared to manually limiting your bursts in full auto mode. This is easily tested by firing a sample of bursts at a blank wall and then comparing the impact pattern with a set of manual bursts in full auto. As you can see, the 2 patterns are virtually identical with the exception of 1 or 2 outliers that may have occurred because I accidentally fired off 4 instead of 3 rounds. The bottom line is that there is no difference in the amount of recoil. Disappointing. But what about the aim reset time after firing? Is that any different? Let's take a quick moment to compare. So as you saw on the left-hand side, we have controlled full auto bursts, and on the right-hand side we have the burst mode. And apart from the couple of bursts on the left-hand side where I might have fired off 4 rounds, they all looked pretty similar to me. Let's just confirm that by slowing things down a bit. And one more time. Well, I think that's quite conclusive. The point of aim reset is exactly the same as long as of course you fire the same amount of bullets. And that means that the only benefits of using the burst mode in Rainbow Six Siege are exactly the same as those of using it in real life. It allows operators to conserve ammo with controlled bursts of fire without having to concentrate on releasing the trigger every time. Conserving ammo might not be a very important factor in the game, but maybe you won't have to reload as frequently, which means that you are less vulnerable to being pushed by a sudden counterattack. But even more important than this is the question of whether or not the burst fire mode can help you land more shots on target quicker compared to going full auto or bursting manually. This, I think, is a relatively personal factor and may vary from player to player, depending on the amount of practice you've had in managing the recoil in the game in general and with specific weapons. I've seen some comments by players that like to use the burst mode because it forces them to pick their shots and has helped them increase their accuracy. Whether or not this could apply to you is something that only you can find out by trying the mode out for yourself. But before you rush off to give the burst mode a go on your favorite weapon, there are a few other questions to consider. For instance, is a single burst enough to take out an opponent, and which muzzle attachment works best when using this mode with each of the 11 weapons? There's only one way to find out. We need further experiments and some good old-fashioned number crunching. And before you start panicking, don't worry. There'll only be a few numbers, it'll be okay, I promise. Let's start off by examining each gun's capability to take down an opponent in a single burst. If we assume that you're engaging your target at close range, thereby doing maximum damage, and each shot hits the torso or arms of the enemy, the general rule of thumb is that the assault rifles can take down an opponent in one burst and the submachine guns cannot. The exceptions here are the AR-33 and the suppressed F2, which are not quite powerful enough, and the unsuppressed UMP-45, which is. But all of these stats are for level 1 armored opponents without rook plates. As soon as you come up against a more heavily armored opponent, your chances of success with a single burst start to decline, and you will usually need at least 2 full bursts to land, and in some cases even 3 or more. The takeaway here is that you should always assume that you will need more than 1 burst, and considering that the vector's damage per shot is so low and the gun only fires in 2-round bursts, I would almost say that it is worth treating the vector's burst mode like a more powerful single-fire mode. And now let's find out which muzzle attachment is the best when using the burst fire mode. I tested all muzzle adapters apart from the extended barrel and suppressor, since they don't affect recoil, for all of the 11 guns that have a burst fire option, and the results are subtle but conclusive. Unsurprisingly, using no attachment is consistently the worst option, with the compensator performing slightly better, the flash hider a little better still, and best of all is still the good old muzzle brake. The results are valid for all of the guns with the exception of the Type 89. With this gun, the 3-round burst using the 4 different muzzle options always produced pretty much exactly the same outcome. This was somewhat surprising to me, and I wonder if maybe there is a bug preventing the muzzle attachments from adding any benefit to the Type 89's recoil behavior? Maybe, but that's something that needs further testing before I can confirm it for sure. Maybe the differences are just very, very subtle. But there we have it. The 2- and 3-round bursts in Rainbow Six Siege do not add any benefits in terms of the in-game mechanics, and I would almost say that for most players, it's worth practicing a little bit to be able to manage recoil and to exercise some trigger discipline in full auto mode rather than relying on the burst. Most of the time, a single burst won't be enough to take down an enemy, so you will need to get used to tracking an opponent and firing off multiple aimed bursts anyway, which in the end requires pretty much the same skill as tracking an enemy while hosing them down on full auto. But having said that, theoretical analysis can only take you so far, and I would strongly encourage you to maybe spend some time using the burst mode to see if it works for you. If you do use the bursts, I can only recommend that you attach the muzzle brake to give yourself the best possible recoil pattern. And that's it. I would love to hear about your experiences with this feature in the game. Leave a comment below and let me know if you've used the burst mode in the past and what your thoughts about its usefulness are. As always, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next episode. And hey, if you did enjoy it, why not consider subscribing for future updates? Thank you so much to everyone who has joined the channel in recent months. My goal is to get to 100,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and I could not do it without your help. So if you like what you're seeing, hit that subscribe button and maybe even share a video or two with your friends. Thanks again, guys. See you next time.